Once a fashionable mansion frequented by scientists and businessmen, now an abandoned mental hospital rotted to little more than skeletal remains marred by the graffiti of vandals, and reported host to supernatural phenomena. This is Great Barr Hall. An existing property, Great Barr Hall was rebuilt and extended in an extravagantly ornamental style, including a landscaped park and lake, by Sir Joseph Scott in the late 18th century, before being leased to Samuel Galton. Galton was a member of the famous Lunar Society, a group which debated philosophy, the arts, science and commerce. Other members included Erasmus Darwin, James Watt, Matthew Boulton and Josiah Wedgwood, and they held meetings at this grand mansion. At the end of the lease, Sir Joseph and later his son Edward and grandson Francis continued to develop the house and park, including building a chapel, the design of which is attributed to renowned architect George Gilbert Scott. Sir Francis died in 1863. His widow, Lady Mildred Bateman Scott, continued to live at Great Barr Hall until her death in 1909. Lady Mildred buried several of her beloved pets outside the chapel, writing memorial poems for their gravestones.
Farewell, dear Millie, nevermore that cheeky mark I hear. O'er thy little grave I mourn my grief with many a tear.
It is said that a ghostly white figure that can sometimes be seen wandering the grounds, sometimes hovering over the fishing lake, shimmering and shivering in the dark, is Lady Mildred. The West Bromwich Poor Law Guardians bought the house and park after Lady Mildred's death. They had responsibility for managing workhouses in the area, and if you were an unmarried, pregnant woman in the early 1900s, the workhouse is where you would likely end up. The Guardians wanted to remove children from the workhouse environment and provide a healthier home for them at Great Barr Hall. But despite this, the children of the workhouse didn't necessarily have happier lives. They would hardly ever see their mothers if they knew them at all, and many would find themselves categorised as incapable, remaining institutionalised into adulthood. Alongside the children's home, the Great Barr Park Colony for Mental Defectives was set up on the site. This later became known as St Margaret's Mental Hospital, but the legal language used to describe mental health conditions and disabilities in 1913 seems cruel to modern ears. Great Barr Hall was never used as an asylum, which is where lunatics were detained under different legislation, but it was a mental hospital, and multiple new buildings were erected on the site over the years to house what the law at the time referred to as the feeble-minded. Great Barr Hall was granted listed building status in 1971. By 1978, it was lying empty and unused. St Margaret's closed in stages around it, and by 2008, most of the hospital buildings had been demolished and replaced with a new housing estate. The hall remained empty and began to deteriorate, at the same time attracting the attention of ghost hunters and paranormal investigators. Is it the restless spirits of the colony's patients who can still be heard by visitors to the now hopelessly derelict mansion? Footsteps have been reported, as if someone is approaching with deliberate intent, but there's no one there. Whispered voices have been heard, indistinct but urgent, and the sound of a bell ringing, sometimes a child crying. A glimpse of a face at a window, a figure seen in the doorway, another walking towards the trees before fading into mist. perhaps most unsettling are the reports of people being prodded, tapped, and even pushed by unseen hands, all in a dangerously dilapidated building surrounded by galvanized security fencing and barbed wire. I visited Great Barr Hall just this week. There is barely any hint of the magnificent building this once was. The imposing walls are now a crumbling facade, propped up with scaffolding that is insufficient to stop rows of bricks from falling. The roof is nothing but a skeletal lattice of rotting beams, and ferns, ivy, briars, and small trees have all taken root in the walls. The chapel is little more than a shell, and graffiti covers the place. The stairs have gone, and fragments of brick, tile, plaster, wood and glass litter the remains of the floors. Every step I took brought a disconcerting crunch or creak, as if the building itself was in pain. And whilst I didn't feel the touch of an otherworldly hand, I didn't feel alone. I had an unshakable sensation of being watched. The smell of damp and decay engulfed me, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the bright autumn air. Perhaps it was just my sadness at seeing the awful state this property has been allowed to fall into. Despite being listed and on the Historic England's at-risk register, no one seems to care for it. But maybe I was sensing something more. The echoes of a busy past. The powerful atmosphere created by years of strong emotion in a place that's had owners and occupiers, visitors, staff, residents, patients, and inmates. Perhaps Great Barr Hall is more than just a forgotten building. Perhaps it's a realm where the lines between then and now become blurred, and the boundaries between past and present grow increasingly indistinct.